Your reaction, we still don't know. It is a Liberal victory, but we don't know whether it's a majority or a minority. Still a number of races too close to call. But at this point, with that before you as the result, what's your reaction?
Well, I think it's quite striking that out of the last 8 federal elections, 6 have now produced a minority government. And it makes you wonder, even when it was down to 2 political parties, 2 clear choices, and really the collapse, if you will, of a couple of other parties, we still couldn't produce a majority government. And I wonder if the parties will take some time to look back and ask themselves, what did we put on offer, and why did Canadians not give any of us a clear mandate? My sense is we still are lacking a serious discussion about the long-term economic growth of our country. There are parts and platforms that people like, but those platforms were generally recycled platforms to some extent, and I think the policies that were put forth, Canadians didn't gravitate clearly towards one or the other, and so we need to do better on their behalf, and I think it starts with speaking truth to Canadians about where we actually are, both from a financial perspective, from an economic perspective, and more broadly, our place in the world.
And where are we, as you see it?
Well, it's a very fragile state. Not only is this election produced a precarious minority, because it is going to be fragile, it's not going to be fun, it's not going to be easy, but we also have national unity that we also have to keep in the back of our minds here. There's a lot of tensions in different parts of our country that need to be brought together, so the Prime Minister has his hands full. I'm about to send a letter to the Prime Minister. I know it's day one, but you know what, as he mentioned in the campaign, we don't have time. We need to get going. The world's not going to wait. We've got to figure out how to stabilize our relationship with the Americans to start.
Okay, so I want to talk about this letter, but you've raised the Americans, and that was certainly the issue at the base of this campaign. And Canadians, it seems, have decided that Mark Carney is the best person who should deal with Donald Trump. How do you want to see him deal with the American administration?
Yeah, for us, it's really a question of what problem are we trying to solve here, right? The president's basically been saying, I'm unhappy with the trade deficit that exists with Canada. And yes, I am calling you out on being, frankly, laggards when it comes to defense and our meeting our commitments for NATO. And that's fair. We need to do better. And I think we're in a place where we're going to have to do better without question. But on the question of trade itself, let's not overbake this cake. The issue is a trade deficit, which frankly doesn't exist, but let's acknowledge, and that doesn't matter with him, if it does, why don't we find a way forward to get to the review and extension of his trade agreement, the trade agreement he negotiated.
CUSMA or USMCA.
Right to CUSMA, USMCA, it's your deal, Mr. President. Everything we've been hearing in Washington is that's really what they're working towards. And I know people say, well, how do you do a deal with somebody who just broke their own deal? Tell me the alternative, that no agreement is no alternative. And so we've been working throughout this period, particularly during the caretaker of government stage, to working with Canadians, Mexicans, and Americans and saying, let's find a path forward. And that path is through the review and extension of the USMCA.
In this letter, what else are you going to be saying as far as the economic priorities you want him to take up?
Well, that's the great question, because in some ways, this one thing is going to work itself out. We do believe at some point there's no way we can go forward with that agreement. The harder part, the part that's actually probably keeping more people up is, as I said, what is Canada's long-term economic strategy? How are we going to strengthen our own country? Are we actually going to follow up and get rid of these interprovincial trade barriers? Will we do permitting in an expeditious way? Can we get our resources to market, from critical minerals to oil to gas to potash to uranium? The world wants what we have. Are we going to be able to strengthen this federation? Are we going to be able to do it in a fiscally responsible way? So governing's hard. Governing is about making choices. I'll leave the politics and all the pundits, but the reality is Canadians have said this is the government that we want, and the voters are never wrong. We would have preferred a stable majority. We have what we have, but these issues don't go away, and the world doesn't wait for Canada.
On the last point, in terms of in a financially responsible way, I don't know. We had the platform costed out and the deficit was large. But go back to the first 3, because he acknowledged all 3 of them in his victory speech last night, particularly on interprovincial barriers. He again made the commitment to have that solved by Canada Day.
Yeah, well, I think the point is show us. Let's get it done. There was a lot of, sort of the say one thing in one place and say one thing in another that has some antennas up. Particularly, as a Westerner, I'm saying this. People want to say, like, are you going to help us construct the infrastructure needed? Are we going to be able to expand our ports? Are we going to be able to build pipelines? Are we going to be able to get the railways in place, our highway systems in place, our airports? We need trade-enabling infrastructure to be able to get access to other markets. But let's be clear. We first need to stabilize the relationship with the United States. 75% of our economy is intertwined with that, and we need to ensure that we are diversifying for the long run.
Again, he said we'll look to other reliable partners in Europe and Central Asia, but that U.S. relationship, that conversation, when it comes with Donald Trump sooner than later, one would presume, how does it need to go?
Well, first of all, let's operate from a position of strength. You know, I think Canadians have chosen to produce their minority government, however precarious it may be. We have to be careful because that can create some instability, that creates a lot of politics. We need to come together. And I was pleased to hear, frankly, both the main political party leaders say the right words, right? But I hear that every election night, to be honest with you. It's in the doing part that's hard. And everyone's going to kind of analyze what this means. My sense is Canadians have effectively said, I wasn't happy enough to vote for any one political party to give them a mandate. I want them to work together. Let's make sure we're dealing with this existential threat to our sovereignty and to our economy united, but in a way in which that doesn't jeopardize our economy at the same time. And there you have a lot of provincial resources that are going to need to find its way to other markets if it's not going to get to the U.S.
Well, there were similarities in platform we learned over the course of those 36 days, so we shall see. And thank you very much for coming in today and throughout these weeks previous. Goldy Hyder in studio with me. Thank you.